In this video, I'm going to show you how to enter data into your graphing calculator to get A, a scatter plot, B, a model, and then graph the scatter plot and the model at the same time. The first thing we need to do is we need to enter our data into our calculator. So we start by pressing the Stat button, and then from here, I press Enter to edit. Now, I have 3 lists with data in them. I can clear each one individually by highlighting the name of the column, pressing clear, and then enter, and I could do that repeatedly. Now, if I have a lot that are full, sometimes that's daunting, so we can press Stat, and then down here, option 4 is clear lists. So if I have a bunch of lists that all have stuff, I can clear them all at once by doing second L1, comma, second L2, and then if my L3 and L4 also had things in them, I could clear them all just by putting commas in between the names. When I press enter, it tells me I'm done. So when I go back into stat and edit, now my lists are empty. So my X values go in L1. I'm going to start 0.5, 1, 1.5, 2, 7.5, 8, 8.5, 9, 9.5, and 10. Before I move on, I'm just going to do a quick view to make sure that it looks like everything's in there correctly. I didn't miss any decimal places. And then I'm going to use my right arrow to get to list 2. And then I'm going to put in my heights, which are my Y values. 0, 19.5, 46.3, 60.1, 74, 89.5, 86.4, 72.4, 57.2, 43.6, 22.1, and 0. Once again, I'm going to look over it and try to make sure that I didn't type anything in wrong before I get too far, and it looks like everything is okay. So now that, if we look, my data is not okay. So you see the 0 here is lined up with nothing there. So I must have messed up on entering something somewhere. So a good way to find this is to go backwards. So I know my 0 should be with 10. So before I go too far, I'm going to go up to the top of my list. And I had 0, 0, 19.5, 46.3, 1, 1.52. See, I missed 2.5. So I need to go back and fix that. But it's always good to check over your data before you do any button pushing because you're going to get errors. And once you have errors, it can get frustrating. So it's always a good idea to check your data first. That way, if you have any errors, you catch them before you're too far along, like I did right here. So it's a little frustrating that I messed up and I have to go back and do it all, but it's better this way than later on. I have my data entered. I want to see what this looks like as a graph. So you see right here in this blue writing, it says stat plot. I press second Y equals. My plot is currently turned off. I'm going to press enter to edit it. I'm going to press enter to turn it on. This first type is a scatter plot. My X list is in L1. My Y list is in L2. I can choose what I want my points to look like, and I can also choose my colors. So once I'm good with everything there, I can now press second quit to get back out. And then instead of pressing graph, I'm going to press zoom, and I'm going to press 9 for zoom stat. So what zoom stat does is it makes my screen automatically zoom so I can see those points. And if you look, the data we were given, they plotted it over here for us, and my points look similar to their points, so I am in good shape. Okay. So I have graphed a scatter plot. Now I want to find the model. In order to find the model, I press Stat, I go over to Calc, and I need to choose a quadratic regression. So that's option 5. Now, if I look, my X list is L3. I don't want L3, I want L1. And my Y list should be L2. Now, I'm going to go to where it says Store Reg EQ, and that means where do you want to store your regression equation? Well, I want to store my regression equation in Y1. That way it will graph it for me along with my scatter plot. I press alpha trace, and it gives me this option here for all of my Y's. So I'm going to choose Y1. And then I press enter until something shows up on my calculator. The calculator gives me my quadratic model, y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. It tells me the values for a, b, and c, and it gives me my coefficient of determination. If you don't have this r squared value, it's very simple to get your calculator to put that on the screen with these models. There's 2 ways to do it. In the newer operating system, all you have to do is press mode, and then if you look down here, Stat Diagnostics, you want your Stat Diagnostics to be on. So if your Stat Diagnostics are on, that's how you get that R squared value. If you don't have this newer operating system, what you have to do is you have to press second catalog, which is 0. Now, this is the catalog of every single command you can give your calculator. It takes a while to scroll, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to press this button right here with the green D by it, and it's going to jump me down to the D's, so it's a little bit easier to scroll. And I'm going to scroll until I find where it says Diagnostics on, and then I press enter. I press enter again, and it says done. So if you're ever looking for something in your graphing calculator and you can't find it, you can always go to the catalog and search through there and see if you can find the command that you're looking for that way. Anyway, now when I press y equals, you see it has copied and pasted that equation in for me, so I don't have to type it. I press graph. And remember, my window was already set for my scatter plot, and now it fits the model to my scatter plot. I don't have the vertex of my parabola showing on the screen, so I can change my window. If I look right now, my Y max is 1.04. I'm just going to bump that up to 120. I'm not going to change anything else because I don't want to mess up what I'm seeing, but I'm going to change that Y max to 120, press graph again, and now it's enough, just barely, to be able to see the top. If it wasn't enough, I could go back in and change it to 150, and keep going until I get something that works. So now I can see my scatter plot and my model at the same time. If I now need to find the vertex, I can press second trace. Option 4 is maximum. Now it's going to say left bound, so I move my cursor until I get to the left of the highest point. When you're doing this, you want to be generous because you don't want to be you can't be too far away, but you can be too close. So I move to the left, and you can see my little cursor, and I'll press enter. Now it says right bound at the bottom of my screen, so I'll go to the right. Okay, now I'm generously to the right of the highest point. I press enter. It wants me to take a guess. I don't have to do that. You'll see that my calculator has drawn 2 vertical dashed lines. What the calculator is going to do is in between those 2 vertical lines, it's going to find the highest point on the model. So when I press enter for guess, I'm not gonna guess, just press enter. And it will tell me that my maximum is 4.986 or 4.99, and that's the x value where the maximum occurs, and then the y value is 116. Now, if we look at the answer that was over here, we had our maximum was 4.97. Checking our calculator, our maximum was 4.986. So it's a little bit different, in part because here, when we solved, we used our rounded values rounded to 3 sig figs. So that's why our values here are slightly different, but you'll see the maximum rounded to 3 sig figs is still the same. So as long as you show your work and which way you're doing it, or it depends on how specific the question is worded. So it says, if it says use your model, you're probably better off using your actual rounded values rather than what the calculator gives you. However, if they just tell you to predict it, or if you show your work where you're using extra decimal places and then rounding at the very end, that's also fine. So this is how you can do all of this on the calculator. If you wanted to estimate the height at 6 seconds, because 6 seconds wasn't on the screen, you can press second trace. I'm going to choose option 1 for value. I want to know what y is when x is 6, so I type in 6 and press enter, and it will tell me that at 6 seconds my height was 111.668 meters, which would round to 112 meters. So you can also use your calculator in this way. Once you have the model in there, you can use it to predict other values as well.